CommonHouse podcast, the show that talks about marketing, advertising, and the creative that drives business success in the Southeast. And one of the big reasons we have this podcast is we want to be helpful to our clients and then also just marketing in general across the Southeast. If you're in the field, we'd love to help out just because we get a lot of questions in this field. I know we've given this in previous episodes, but just a disclaimer, we are a video production company. We're not a marketing agency, but we work in the marketing world, and we've seen a lot of the ins and outs. And so we just want to bring to light the answers that we've seen that have been most helpful to some of those questions.
That's right. And today we'll be talking about what types of videos your business should be considering. I think it's sort of odd, but we often encounter people when they've decided what kind of video they need.
Yep.
But if you are sitting there and you're like, man, we really need to market our business, we need to make video, we need to be participating in this medium. Tommy, for you, when we're talking to a client or we see a business that needs video content, what are some of the different types of videos that they should be considering? Yeah,
so I'd say right off the bat, the first one is an explainer or a product demo video. Nearly every single business can benefit from a good explainer video. This is like a classic short video that shows what you do or how your product works. So this is like, say, take your flagship product or flagship service or something like this. This would be a video that breaks it down and puts it in its most simplest form so it's easy to digest for people to see visually what it is, and also just for you to get your voice talking on, what the usefulness of that is. So it could be, anything that your business does, but one of the big things that you want to market, an explainer video breaks it down for customers and just makes it really, it helps customers understand.
Yes, and 82% of consumers say that they've been convinced to buy a product or service through a video. So It's very powerful, 82%, that's crazy. I can think of a real world example for me. I remember when a friend of mine sent me a link to this thing called Dropbox, and they were like, hey, this is brand new. If I refer a friend, I get like a certain amount of space. And I was like, whatever. And I watched this explainer video about how it worked. And I was like, oh, this is pretty cool and pretty handy. I remember back then, it was probably like 10 megabytes. You just got this small amount, but back then it seemed huge. You were like, I would never need more space. And now we're struggling for like, how do we get 50 terabytes, from our cloud storage? And so, an explainer video can be really, really helpful. As well, it can be implemented into your sales process. Your sales team can use these videos to assist in the selling process. Or if someone finds you cold through a Google search, Facebook, or referral, they're able to see that explainer video. And one of the things we've seen the last couple of years is, especially with larger purchases, customers are doing a ton of research and they want to read, they want to learn, they want to be educated before they pick up the phone, before they send that email. And so these explainer videos are really, really helpful. The second most common video, and one of our favorites to make, is the customer testimonial. Tell me, why do we love customer testimonials so much?
We love them so much because first of all, they build so much trust for your business. That's the biggest reason, is when people are doing the research, like you mentioned. I know, for example, the first thing I do whenever I'm going to purchase a new camera or a lens or something is I go to YouTube and I look up reviews. So I'm going to look up someone that has had hands-on with the product and see what they have to say about it.
That's right, yeah.
A testimonial is the same exact concept, except it's coming from one of your customers, not just a random YouTuber. It's someone who you've had business with, you've worked with, who loves your stuff and is a big fan of your products. And so that builds a huge amount of trust for someone to be able to hear from someone who has used the service, bought the product, and they can talk about, how much it helped them, how much they enjoyed it. It's really is a game changer. It's probably one of the most important videos. That's why it's second on this list, is because it's a huge deal. One statistic is that 84% of people trust recommendations from peers over advertising. And that's huge because we know, we've mentioned it before, alarm bells go off when they can feel advertisement. And so that's one thing a testimonial does. It doesn't feel as much like an advertisement.
Right. Yeah. You're allowing your customers to brag on you, to tell your story.
Exactly.
Growing up, my dad was like, let other people brag on you. Don't toot your own horn, so to say. And so it's a great way to do that. And I know, particularly when businesses are going from that small to medium size, they really struggle with that. Like, they've never done marketing, or they've done very little. They just have a great product or service. And so it feels weird. Like, how do we tell our story without being braggadocious or something like that? And one of the best ways to do that is let your customers tell your story.
Yeah.
So absolutely. Testimonials are certainly one of our favorites. Tell me a little bit about behind the scenes and company culture videos.
Yeah, so this is kind of interesting because it's not on necessarily the forward facing side of things sometimes. A lot of times these behind the scenes and company culture can be something that affects, your marketing in some sense, but also your employees as well. So it's a great way to build trust on both sides of that aisle right there. People love getting a sneak peek behind the curtain. So on the marketing sides of things, they want to kind of see how you work. That's another way to build trust is you kind of, it's showing that you're transparent. You're not,
humanizes the brand.
Exactly. Yeah. You're not hiding things behind a curtain. You're not trying to keep things secret. You're showing like, hey, we're people, this is a business that's just run by a bunch of people and we're just like you. So here's kind of how we do things. It's not super complicated. It's not crazy complex. Like we're just people doing our job and we just have, a good knowledge on what we do.
Yeah. And I know there's several products that I've purchased over the years that meant a lot more to me when I saw behind the scenes of like, whoa, people really like what they do. Like they like making this widget or developing this software. Like that means a lot for folks to see the behind the scenes, that there's care and there's excellence put into the work for sure. And so those behind the scenes videos are really, really helpful.
It also gives customers an appreciation for maybe how much work you're actually doing. Because I know sometimes there's times that I've seen behind the scenes videos and I'm like, I did not realize so much went into that. There's lots of simple items we use throughout our day that we have no idea how complex it is to make those. So sometimes when you see behind the scenes, it even builds trust even more because they realize, it takes a lot of work and a lot of knowledge to build this, to put out this service. And they're doing a really great job.
Yeah. And you might also consider, and this would be a different type of video, but sort of similar, is the how-to or educational videos. And that's to support customer retention engagement. It says that one of the stats we found when researching this was 68% of people said they would rather watch an explainer video for troubleshooting than call customer service.
Yep.
I am one of the 68%, Absolutely. That's for sure, because I do not want to call customer service because of bad experiences in the past. I would much rather watch a video. And so it's a great way to show your customer, like you had mentioned, it's a great way to show all the work that's put in behind the scenes. And sometimes it may feel weird for you as a business to do a how-to or tutorial about a product that you make or service. Yeah. But I think a lot of times I've watched those videos and said, wow, I don't want to do all that work. I'd rather pay for this, like you really start at some point in your life doing the math and saying, is this worth fill in the blank number, or would it be better for me to just buy it? And so, yes, it might feel strange for you to make a tutorial video about a product or service that you sell, but a lot of times that's your customers who are watching it because they're going to get knee deep in it and say, this is just way too much work. I watched a video. Let me call that guy. let me reach out to let me go on his website and order that product because that would be way easier.
And I know the kind of the common theme with a lot of these has been building that trust. And I think that builds a lot of trust because it shows that you're not afraid to show people how to do what you do. Essentially, you can say, hey, look, it's not that complicated. Here's what we're doing. But it does take work and it does take experience. And like in our example, like, we've been doing this for a combined like 15 years or something like that. So it helps a lot to know how much experience has gone into it and why we are really good at what we do because of that experience. So yeah, like I know for a fact that we could make a video saying like, hey, yeah, you can make a video, buy this camera, buy these lights, buy this sound equipment, buy this editing software. And even just saying that, I know probably a bunch of people right now are being like, I don't want to do that.
Right. Yeah. You've already named more things than I want to do. Yeah. But I do enjoy, and this would be a little bit of me venting, but it is hilarious sometimes when people call and they're like, hey man, I just wanted to call you for 5 minutes and just talk about how to make this video and make it awesome. I'm like, okay, so you want me to distill all of this knowledge from all these years into 5 minutes? Yeah. Like you're going to cheapen me to that. Yeah. Okay. Exactly. Thanks, man. Appreciate it. Yeah. It's like going to your doctor and being like, hey, I need this massive surgery, but if you could just tell me how to do it, it'd be easier. I'll do it myself. I'd rather DIY it.
That's a favorite thing they'll say. It's just like, it's really simple. It's really not going to be too complicated.
right. And just some ideas. So if you are wanting to do some of those videos, even on your own, like some user generated content, think of like the top 5 tips kind of videos. So like top 5 tips for blank, or 3 things you never knew about blank. Like those are great titles and great ways to do your own behind the scenes or explainer videos.
Exactly. Another video that is commonly used, and probably it's lower on the list, probably because it's while it's not the important for sales and building trust like that, it's important because it kind of establishes the foundation of your brand. And that's an about us video or like a brand values video, essentially. So a lot of times you'll see this as kind of like if you go to someone's website, any main company website or their YouTube channel or something, it's probably the first thing you're going to see because it lays out the foundation of who the brand is. It's not necessarily advertising particular products. It's not trying to get you to buy anything. And a lot of times it doesn't even mention the company a lot anyway, because it's laying the foundation for why they exist as a business, what problem they're solving, and also what they believe in. So it's crucial in a sense of the grand scheme of all the videos you can create because it does lay that foundation. But oftentimes it is kind of the pricier video that companies will put a lot of effort and a lot of money into, because it's something they want to live a really long time, and because it's something that's really important that's going to be shown everywhere.
Yeah, for us, those are usually at least a day, if not multiple days of shooting, gathering footage. I would say if you're making this type of video, one of the most common mistakes that we see people make is emphasizing the story too much instead of the impact for the customer.
Exactly.
So they might say, hey, we've been in business for 50 years and we've just seen that over the last 10 years, like that matters a lot less to people. They don't really, it doesn't mean it doesn't matter that your great-great-grandfather started it and you're continuing it on. That does still matter, but it doesn't matter as much as what's the benefit for me. If I'm spending my hard-earned dollars, or if it's B2B, my company spending their hard-earned dollars, we need to talk about that reward for them more than the story.
And oftentimes it doesn't even have to be a huge twist. So your great-grandfather started this company, it's been around forever, but you just take that story and turn it into, we've been a part of this community forever.
Right,
here's what we're providing for the community. Here's why we care about this community. That way you're getting
so much more inspiring.
Yeah, so much more inspiring. And you're also getting across the trust from the community, and you're expressing the values too, and like why the community does matter to you as a business. That is, if your community matters to you as a business.
Right. If it doesn't,
if you don't like your community as a business, then
just don't tell that story. That's right. So those are some examples of some videos that we do for different customers and that you might consider for your business or brand. Well, another question, and Tommy, we both admittedly said we don't know that we'll have a ton to say about this, but we are getting questions about, and we've even done some proposals for 360 video or augmented reality. So Tommy, just quick hot take here. Hype, or is there something to this?
It's, if I want to do a real hot take, I would probably be a pessimist and say that maybe long-term there's not. But as far as short-term, yes. Yes, there is hype short-term for sure. It's one of those things that I don't think we've had enough time to see if it'll be evergreen 10 years from now. But I do think in the meantime, there is some advantages to it.
And I think particularly what type of business you are.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, so that augmented reality and 360 video, you see a lot of those that are kind of popping up a little more in day-to-day life. I think the biggest obvious example is, of course, Google Maps. You look at 360 video and you see how useful Google Maps is. That is a place where I can't think of a better use of 360 video than, of course, Maps. You know, how many times whenever you're like looking at houses on Realtor or Zillow or something, you're like, what's the neighborhood look like? I'm going to hop on Google Maps and go run around the streets and see like, what does the neighborhood look like and stuff like that. So it's a great use for that. I've seen tons of companies that have done, if you're inside your building is very important to the customer experience. A 360 video is a great way to let people see what that experience looks like. That's projects we've quoted out wherever, it's colleges who want to do a virtual tour, or businesses in that same line aspect where you want to give the customer an experience for what it looks like. 360, augmented reality, those are great ways to do that. And probably if there is an evergreen aspect to that, I think that will be where it will stay. There are probably more undiscovered areas that we could find use for those, but those are the biggest ones that probably would give you the best return for your buck right now is those two examples.
And I think for me, I've seen where we've used this is the augmented reality where you can see what a couch would look like in your house. Like things like that that's so helpful to be able to look and see. And for me to just realize like whatever color it is, it's going to be 3 shades darker in 6 months because we have 4 kids. They're going to get stains all over it. So I have to remember that when I'm using the augmented reality. But I think if you run a business like that where it's really helpful for a customer to visualize your product in their space, man, augmented reality is something you need to put a lot of chips in, a lot of resources to either at least understanding, if not implementing into your business.
For sure. And what's crazy is the availability of a lot of these tools. Like I have a friend who's a painter, and I mean, even on her website, she has a link to a tool you can use where you can put one of her paintings in your house. So like it's not like it's this thing that only these large companies have access to. Like it's one of those tools that's become kind of everywhere. You can have access to it, and you can find a way to implement it into your sales plan or your your website. It's not that difficult anymore.
Yeah. Well, what do you think about 360 immersive video, even the VR side of things?
That's something that I think is a little tricky. We're still seeing, I think it's kind of been a mixed bags of results right now with things like the Apple Vision Pro.
Yeah. Clearly these companies are excited about it.
So
Apple,
they've invested
Microsoft.
a lot of money into it. It's one of those things where we're in such an early phase. You look at so many other products that were in this phase before. Some lived in the long term, some didn't. But Apple's always positioned themselves as a company that's looking forward into the future and kind of answering the needs before they're even there. So sometimes it could be one of those things that, 10 years from now, Apple Vision Pro could be everywhere. But it still is a really neat concept of exploring the world, which I think we are heading to eventually, no matter what, is this augmented reality world where we will be wearing, it's just another version of a phone where they'll be instead of on a screen, it'll be kind of in our environment that we can interact with. So it's still up in the air as far as what that's going to look like, but I think the foundation is definitely there. I
used to do a tech podcast for this tech company, and it was very funny because I'm not very techie at all. I could ask the questions, but I do remember one that I was really excited about. And this was probably 8 or 9 years ago, but I never heard much else after that. But they were developing a software where you could watch a game with friends. And so you would essentially see the stadium or the court or something like that with some friends. And so I always thought, man, that would be really cool, because even my father, he lives 3 hours away. And I was like, man, that'd be cool to watch a video with him 3 hours away. We're watching football together on a Saturday or watching a game. So I haven't seen that yet, but we are starting to see even, it's not quite VR or immersive, but even the suites where it's more a wraparound video for basketball or soccer or football. We're starting to see more experiences like that. And I think that could be pretty interesting over the next few years to see the experience side. Like how are companies creating experience for consumers that are different and better than their at home viewing, particularly for sports.
Exactly. And I think that's what you're mentioning there is probably the biggest challenge that this tech is facing right now. Just like with any tech, it's still in its early phases. Yeah. And so a lot of times with early tech, it feels kind of fake at first. So what's going to be crazy is when that you watching a basketball game with your friend the tech is so advanced that it feels real. Yeah. That's when it's going to be really, really crazy. Because right now it's like, I'm wearing this giant headset. Yeah, right. I'm looking around, I take it off and I'm immediately alone. And I know, that I'm not actually there. But as tech advances, there's going to be creative ways that they kind of come up with to make it feel more and more real.
Yeah. Very exciting. Well, guys, this will kind of wrap up our episode. And if you have questions for us, one of the advantages of getting to work with so many different businesses is, again, we're not marketers, but we see what other people are doing. And so if you have questions or things you're curious about, we'd love to help. And thanks for watching another episode.
Yeah. Thanks, y'all.